it's a brand new reacting to true stories scary animations. And you already know, boy, you better get that out of here. But you guys know what to do. First, click the subscribe button and give the video a like. Once you've done that, you can go ahead to the kitchen and get your snacks. Go ahead and get your popcorn and your chips and your candy and soda or juice or even water. Grab some leftovers from dinner last night. Go ahead, get it all, because we're gonna check out some of these creepy, scary animations. And gotta give a shout out to MJV Animations. They're the ones that made these amazing animations we're about to watch. Subscribe to them, check them out. And yeah, comment down below something scary. You can put your grades. You can put your grandma. Or you could put your bathroom. Let me know. Woo! And let's go. Okay, guys, I'm a little nervous, a little scared already, but you know, make sure you get your blankets and let's check these out. Here we go.
When I was 12, I went trick-or-treating with my friend Steven. It was the first year my parents let me go out for Halloween without at least one of them. Steven and I were collecting lots of candy, as many houses were giving it out that year, so luckily we didn't have to walk very far. We were about 2 blocks from my house and about 6 blocks from Steven's house when we saw our next target. It was a small 1-story house, barely decorated, but the light porch was on. We walked up to it and knocked. The door opened a few seconds later. In front of me was a middle-aged man with a creepy smile. Steven and I were immediately hit with a wave of warm, stale air from inside the house.
He farted.
It smelled like rank sweat and dirty clothes. The man wasn't alone in the house. There were 3 other people with him, standing about as far back as they could before view. Each of them were wearing full-body costumes and masks that covered their faces.
Bro.
And they were all staring at me and Steven. We said trick-or-treat after a moment of hesitation. The man brought out a bowl of candy and started to pick out some to give to us. But then he stopped. He put the bowl away and said he really liked our costumes, so he was going to give us the good stuff. Then, he brought out a second smaller bowl. Inside, there were only one type of candy. Little squares wrapped in paper, like Starburst, but they were all just plain white. The guy said that they were homemade caramel chews, and he wanted us to try them. He took 2 from the bowl, but instead of dropping them into our bags, he insisted we put out our hands.
Heck no.
We thought it was weird, but we did it. Then he dropped 1 piece of candy in our hands. We both reached for our bags, but the man stopped us. He said he wanted us to try them there. We both said we didn't want to, but he insisted. He wanted to have us tell him what we thought. He convinced us a lot of work had gone into them and we were being rude by not eating them. Eventually we gave in.
Oh.
The flavor was fine, but the one thing that stood out about it was that it was weirdly salty. We both lied and said they were great. That was our mistake. The man then invited us inside the house, claiming he wanted to show us how the candy was made. We instantly declined. That's when I noticed that all 3 of the masked people who were watching us before had disappeared. And from behind the house,
Are you
I
serious?
heard a screen door slam shut. The man continued trying to convince us to go inside, even putting a hand on Steven's shoulder, which Steven quickly brushed off. We were about to turn away and leave, but by then, it was too late.
Oh.
The 3 masked people from inside the house had come around and were now standing behind us, blocking our exit down the stairs of the porch. They inched forward, forcing us closer to the man as he kept pulling at us. We shouted at them to stop, but they weren't going to. They were forcing us inside. In a panic, I bolted to the side. I felt someone grab my bag of candy, so I dropped it.
Yeah, seriously, just drop it.
I jumped over the banister and landed in the bushes. I quickly got to my feet and started sprinting down the street toward my house.
What about your friend?
Back and saw 2 of the masked people were chasing me. And down the street, Steven was running from the 3rd one in the other direction. I screamed for help, but because the people chasing us were in costumes, everybody on the street thought we were being pranked. I made it back to my house shortly after losing the masked people around a corner. My mom saw me returning without any candy and asked what had happened. I lied and said Steven and I were scared by a group of mean teenagers who forced us to give up our candy. I don't know why I lied. I guess because I was afraid of not being allowed to go trick-or-treating again. Regardless, I stuck with it. Then she asked if Steven made it home. I told her I didn't know.
Oh.
So she took me in the car over to Steven's house to make sure he was okay. Luckily, he also made it home unharmed. My mom said she would let me eat all that was left at the house, but I didn't want to. By then, I was feeling very strange. I was extremely tired, like I was getting sick and needed to lay down.
It was that candy.
Back from Steven's house, I went straight to bed and fell asleep immediately. I woke up at about 3 in the morning, feeling very groggy and terrible. I didn't know why I had woken up, but then I heard a knock at my window. I looked over and saw the silhouette of a person outside, holding something next to them. I gasped in shock and rubbed my eyes. But when I looked again, the figure was gone. I brushed it off as leftover paranoia from earlier and went back to sleep. The next day, as I was leaving to walk to school, I noticed something on the side of the house, right under my window. I went over to investigate and discovered it was the bag of candy I had lost.
Oh, well, there you go.
What I saw the previous night wasn't a hallucination. Those freaks had followed me home. I wanted nothing to do with it. I picked it up and threw it right in the trash.
Yeah.
For the next 6 years, until I moved out, I avoided that man's house like the plague. I've always tried to not think about whatever twisted things were going on in there. But I still get flashbacks. I didn't put it together then. But I believe the candy he gave us was laced with something to make us unconscious. Because Steven told me later that he felt the same way I did afterwards. Whatever torture we were spared probably would have been the end for us.
No! Okay, I'm never going trick-or-treating again. I'm not opening my door for trick-or-treaters ever again, just in case. But everybody, stick with me, okay? Don't leave me alone. Let's go ahead and watch another one. Let's go!
I was 19 when I broke up with my boyfriend of 3 years. He was abusive during our entire relationship, and when I finally managed to end things, he left me traumatized and took all my friends with him.
He was ugly
In
anyway.
my freshman year of college, I got in with an entirely new group of friends who didn't have any connections with my ex to my knowledge. At the start of our sophomore year, one of my new friends got their first apartment. Once we were settled in for the new semester, they finally planned their housewarming party in mid-October. By then, the local amusement park had started their annual Halloween event, so they had everyone get tickets to it for the day after the party.
Another Halloween.
In fact, the entire party was Halloween themed, which I absolutely hated. I had always been easy to scare, especially while still recovering from years of abuse, so I was the opposite of thrilled when they put on a horror movie. I had to sit through the entire thing while basically hiding under a blanket.
Like me.
Unfortunately, when that one was finished, they put on another. I tried to convince everyone to watch something else, but it seemed like nobody wanted to listen to me.
That smile.
I figured I only had one option to get through the night. Drink ahead of everyone else until I was drunk enough to pass out on the couch.
Yeah.
It worked, but my nightmares were filled with demons and murderers trying to kill me and torture me. Then, I woke up with the worst hangover of my life. My head was pounding. I was nauseous, anxious, throwing up and sweating out all the water I tried to drink.
Gross.
My friends just let me suffer through it, but they also dragged me out to a diner for a late breakfast. The smell of their food was enough to make me gag, so unsurprisingly, I wasn't able to get anything down. At this point, I was dreading the Halloween event, but I couldn't find a way to tell anyone I didn't want to go, especially because someone else had paid for my ticket.
Yeah.
I felt like I was forced into the park that night. Then, before we could even get in line for a haunted house, some psycho with a chainsaw ran up on us. We all screamed, but everyone else was quickly laughing it off while I was still fighting off a panic attack. Unfortunately, things didn't get better in the relative safety of the line into the first haunted house. I started catching glimpses of someone, like I was being haunted. I kept seeing my ex-boyfriend in the park, peeking around corners and standing among moving crowds of people.
Not today.
Whenever I went to look at him, he disappeared. One of my friends noticed that I was still freaking, so when they said something, I asked them if they had seen my ex around. They just laughed and said that was ridiculous. Something about the way she said it didn't sit right with me, but I couldn't be sure of anything. We were approaching the front of the line rapidly, and before I knew it, the 5 of us were plunged into the horrors of the haunted house. Freaks were jumping out at us left and right, screaming about killing us and ripping us apart. I stayed in the middle of the group and looked down at the ground the entire time. Eventually, we entered a small metal room. There was blood everywhere and a torture chair in the middle, guarded by a masked man holding a circular bone saw. Instead of chasing after us, he started talking, only to ask which one of us we would like to see cut open. I could barely comprehend what was happening before I heard giggling. Then the girls behind me pushed me to the front. I stumbled straight into the masked freak as he revved the saw in my face. I screamed and ran away, but I was trapped in the room with them. I backed myself into a corner, begging for them to stop, but then I felt something familiar. A hand laid across my shoulder and squeezed. I looked back to see my ex-boyfriend standing behind me.
Are you
He was
serious?
smiling as he reached to put his arms around me. I fell to the ground instantly, scrambling back toward the group as I screamed at the top of my lungs and pointed to the corner. Everyone just looked at me like I was insane and said nobody was there. I thought they were screwing with me, but when I looked again, he was gone. I heard everyone start to laugh, but I noticed an emergency exit and ran away. I got let out into some random part of the park where I found a small alley to hide in. My friends were blowing up my phone, laughing and asking if I was schizophrenic or something.
Jeez.
I ignored them all and called my mom to pick me up and take me home. That night, I had the same horrible nightmares as the previous night, only this time, all my new friends were watching me scream for help and just standing there laughing at me. At one point in my nightmares, I was killed.
Oh.
My eyes shot open, but I couldn't move. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe either.
Sleep
All I
paralysis.
could see was my ex-boyfriend crawling through my bedroom window. I finally caught my breath and screamed as loud as I could.
Dang,
The
girl.
next thing I remember is my dad bursting into the room, but my ex was gone, and the window was only open by an inch. I don't know if I blacked out from fear and didn't remember him leaving, or if it was just another nightmare. It's been a few months, and I don't associate with any of those people anymore.
Yeah.
However, I still wonder what really happened. To be honest, I don't know if they actually set me up like that, or if I just let them stress me out to the point that I had a mental breakdown. One thing that's strange to me is that my ex had been persistently trying to reach out to me for months, but then he stopped that same night. All I know is I won't let people treat me like that anymore, and I won't go into another haunted house for the rest of my life.
Dang, girl, you need some better friends. And these things were nasty. Like, where are their clothes? Ew. But don't go anywhere, okay? All right, we're gonna check out one more. Just stick with me. Lego.
I don't really want to talk about the exact location, and I also don't really want to say my name or the names of anyone associated with this story for privacy reasons. I would like to be anonymous, and hopefully it stays that way. What I will say was this took place at a McDonald's in a bigger city. I was with my friend who I'm going to call Jessica for the sake of this story. She was my best friend all throughout high school. We were really close and always had each other's backs on everything, especially when it comes to stuff like this. We were having a girls' night out at this little dive bar in town. It was on a Monday night, and I remember there weren't many people there. We had both just taken time off of work, and we were planning on hanging out all week for a little getaway, if you will. I would say around 7:30 we left the bar, as we had already been there a few hours and probably had a few too many to drink. I realized when I stood up that it was probably not the best idea for me to drive, so Jessica offered to take me home. We came to the conclusion that we were hungry, though, so we agreed to get McDonald's.
Yes, McDonald's.
It was quick and easy, so that's what we did. We actually ended up walking there rather than driving because it was just down the street, and it was going to be fun to walk anyway. It wouldn't have been smart to drive such a short distance, when in reality, it was already iffy as to if we should have been driving in the first place. I'm huge on not drinking and driving. Everyone swears it the same way. But I've lost 2 close family members from drunk drivers, so I've always swore to myself after that I would never partake in it no matter what. I wasn't really sure if Jessica was good to drive, but I trusted her because she knew how I felt about it. Anyways, we got to the McDonald's and we were worried the lobby was going to be closed, but we still took the risk of walking, and thankfully it wasn't. But when we got there, it was rather dark. The sun was finally setting, and what little light we had left was fading away by the second. There was a man sitting outside. He looked to be homeless or stressed out, or maybe both. He was sitting in the front outside by the glass window,
Jeez.
in a seat. He was sort of just laying there on the ground.
Oh, heck no.
But he perked right up when he heard us, and he walked up to us, and he asked if he could ask us a question. He asked for $20, and I told him I didn't have the money, and that I needed it for McDonald's. We walked in, and we got our food, and I ate like half of it. I only ate what my stomach could handle. Instead of throwing out my fries that I barely touched, I handed them off to the man that was outside. He seemed grateful, but he tried once more. Hey, what about $15? Please, I'm really starving. I would truly appreciate it more than you know, he said. Jessica ended up buying the food for me, so I still had a $10 bill that I figured was better off with him.
Yeah.
So I gave it to him with a smile and I started walking away. Are you kidding me, bitch? He said. I turned around in disbelief at what I just heard. He was pissed off because I only gave him $10 when he asked for $15.
Jeez.
I explained to him that it was all I had and how he should be grateful. I actually then demanded that he give me my money back, which probably wasn't such a great idea and not really worth the hassle.
Yeah.
I was just so pissed off in the moment. You want your stupid money, you dumb? Come get it then. He then put the money in his pants and told me to come get it.
Yeah. Nope.
I practically gagged and we started walking away. He then started following us and he started screaming at us. It was almost unintelligible, but I could make out some of what he was saying. He was basically calling me names over and over and saying things I don't really care to repeat, like threatening to sexually assault me and a bunch of other crazy shit. It got to the point where we had to start running and I called the police and started crying. He was kind of old and frail, and also probably malnourished and dehydrated, so it wasn't too hard to get away from him.
Jeez.
Some people are just so freaking weird and crazy, I can't even begin to fathom or understand it. The police said they couldn't find him that night, and we didn't want to keep waiting around, so we ended up letting it go. They weren't going to put out a warrant out for something like that, so all they could really do was keep an eye on things. Their words, not mine. I just remember feeling so violated when he was talking to us like that. I genuinely believed I was going to have to fight for my life, but luckily it didn't come to that. And I know Jessica and I could have probably beat him up together, 2 against 1, but you never know what someone's capable of. I mean, for the love of goodness, we didn't even do anything to set this man off, and he was that mad. He was so unpredictable that I thought maybe he was going to pull out a weapon and try to use it on us. I mean, you really never know anymore in this crazy world of ours.
Seriously. No! Okay, well, I guess I'm not going to McDonald's ever again. I mean, like, I'll give homeless people some money sometimes, but, you know, geez. Thank you will suffice. I lied. McDonald's sounds pretty good, low-key. Let's all go there right now. Come on. But if you enjoyed this video, then go ahead and smack that like button. And yeah, I'ma see ya in the next one. Peace.